Welcome to your aerial yoga flow for energies. This is an energizing flow. We're going to start standing behind the hammock with your arms wrapped around. So it's a tabletop position. You're going to take your hands around the outside of the hammock and then wrap them inside to create a wrist wrap. And then we're just going to bend the elbows and shift forward into a tabletop pose. Keep your elbows slightly above your head and try not to let the elbows go too much higher than the shoulders. And then cat-cow here. Exhale, round your spine. Pull down on the hammock with your hands. Inhale, dip your belly, open your chest. Continue to pull down on the hammock with your hands. So you're opening your heart, trying to create energy. Use your spine and the muscles to press your back up to the ceiling. Exhale. And inhale, open your chest. Keep those elbows pulling down and keep your hands gripping the fabric. Shift back, hips towards heels, and then start to round your spine and pull up to seated. Elbows can lighten up their pull, so it's not so much of a biceps engagement here. Still using the arms though. And then lean back with straight arms and just keep your arms straight. Keep your hips down for now. Then inhale, open your chest and let your hips move as they follow your chest. Exhale, round your spine and let your hips move after your spine rounds. Inhale, come up to seated and then swing through tabletop, lower down to thighs, hips, and then maybe even belly button. Keep those elbows softly bent. You're going to pull back up. Use your back muscles. Push into your knees. Pull down on your hands and sit back to your heels. And then again, inhale, lean back, straighten your arms. First, you're going to lift your chest. Inhale, open your heart. Then your hips follow. And your head can go back if it feels good. Shrug the shoulders open and then sit back down towards your heels. Take your chin into your chest, bend your elbows, pull yourself up, go through again, all the way passing tabletop, knees, thighs, hips, belly button. Keep the elbows bent. And then we're going to roll over to the side here. So really bend the left elbow as you roll over to your right hip. Keep your legs just kind of staggered there and look up to the ceiling. And then roll back over to your hips. All right, and then we're going to go to the other side. So bend the left elbow and the right elbow, pull yourself over. Bend the right elbow a lot. Keep your legs where they were. They just kind of split apart. Look up to the ceiling and then roll back over to your hips. You can take that a couple more times if that felt good, or if you weren't sure on that movement, go back and rewind and slow it down and try it a couple times. And then when you're ready, come back up to a kneeling position. You can release your hands from the fabric, stretch your arms up. And exhale, release your arms. Okay, swing the hammock behind you for an upper back harness. Situate your knees comfortably. If you need a blanket, you can separate your knees slightly. Lean back into a supported camel pose. Use your hands on your glutes. And then sit down towards your heels and take your arms forward, round your spine. Inhale, press your hips forward and heart up. Camel, cat, cow. Open your heart when you do this. Exhale, sit back towards your heels, maybe not even getting to your heels. Find the hammocks holding you. Round your spine, arms forward. Inhale, open your chest, press your thigh bones forward, lift your chest up to the ceiling, lean back into that fabric. And then sit back, exhale, round forward. Arms forward, rounding your spine to the back. Inhale, open. Press your hips through, press your heart up, really open your throat and chest area. And sit back towards your heels here. Okay, so we're going to come up to kneeling and the hammock is going to wrap around your shoulders. Situate this if it doesn't feel good. And then come into a kneeling plank, and then you can lift your knees or stay in that kneeling plank. There's a wrap in the shoulders, so you really have to resist the wrap with your shoulders. You can't just hang from that wrap. Come back into a fierce pose position, chair, and then lean back into an upward facing plank. Open your arms. Press the soles of your feet down and try not to let your hips pitch. Sit back down, round your spine, roll to your toes. And then once you feel like you got your weight in your toes, stretch forward into a downward facing plank. Thighs are strong, core is engaged. Roll back through bent knees to your heels and then straighten your legs. Upward facing plank, open your heart. So think of this like cat-cow. Just moving out of upward facing plank into downward facing plank. Roll through to a downward facing plank. Your legs are moving you, so bend your knees for a shock absorption, for smoother transition. All right, land in a forward fold on your feet. You can take the hammock now down to your elbows and then just a little shift side to side, maybe bend one knee, sway a little bit, have some fun here, separate your feet a little farther. We are going to move this into Skandasana. So as you worm your way there, squat onto your left foot, straighten out your right leg, toes up to the ceiling. Keep pushing down into the fabric with your elbows so you're not hanging from them. And then come up and go back and forth a couple times until you can just kind of inch your way into this squat on the right side. So now your left toes are up, right knee is bent. And again, pressing down into the fabric with your elbows so you're not pulling the front of your shoulders too far or your chest too much. But you feel that chest opening here. All right, come back into a wide leg forward fold. Catch the fabric with your hands. This is all grip, so don't face plant. Don't let your hands slide. Roll forward and back. And I'm going to take my hands up a little higher. I felt a little too close to the floor there. I didn't like that feeling. Hands up a little higher and grip, grip, grip. Stretch forward, pushing into your toes. Engage your core, engage your thighs, and then roll back to your feet. And then bend your knees here, goddess squat. So your toes point out, your knees bend in the line of your toes. You can wrap your arms up and reach your arms high. You can just hold onto the fabric with your hands. You could bend your elbows. Anything goes here. Use the fabric to aid you in this posture, but sit down just a little higher than your knees. And then press to stand, straight legs. Heel toe your feet back in. I'm going to take the right knee up. Grab that fabric, really reach up high, get a good grip on the fabric, and step forward. Good high lunge, Ashtha Chandrasana. You're using the fabric here for balance. Left leg is strong. Squeeze that left thigh. And get yourself comfortable, and then you're going to forward fold over your right leg. Hover. Right knee stays bent, so it's a hovering warrior. So you may have to move your feet because the plumb line and the fabric, does kind of keep you from just moving organically. And then put that left heel down from your hovering high lunge so you can come into a humble warrior. So I'm just simply interlacing my fingers. Another really great thing here to do then is reach up and grab the fabric and let yourself just kind of drop into this. Try not to let your right hip pop out to the side though. Push back through your left foot, very strong left leg. And then inhale, come back up. And then I'm going to lean back into the upper back harness, bend the left knee and cross the right ankle over left thigh for number 4 chair position. Stretch your arms open and just sit down here for a few moments and stretch out that right hip. And you can keep your arms open or you can take your hands to rest on your shin. You can reach up and push your hands into the fabric if this is pinching in your armpits. So you can press the fabric away with your palms, straight arms. All right, inhale, reach back up, grab the hammock, pull yourself up to stand, and then step forward again with your right foot. This time, warrior 2. So a couple ways you can use your arms here. You can just use your hands on the fabric and pushing your arms apart. You can also then wrap your arms up, a second wrapping, and take a goalpost arm positioning here. This is really going to fire up the upper back and send that chest forward, which is what we're looking for in energizing practice to open the heart. Keep your right knee bent. Right, and then swing down or drop down, lower down slowly to your left knee. And we're going to take this into a modified side angle. So my right knee is still bent and that's in that warrior 2 position. Left knee is on the floor. Turn your left toes behind. And then I'm going to take the fabric off of my body up to the front. Right hand is in the hammock. Left hand reaches up. And then I'm going to stir my right arm forward and lean out over my right leg. Let your left toes turn to where they need to turn. So my left shin is turned at an angle. Press forward with your right hand and pull down with your left palm without bending your left elbow. Open your left ribs. Keep the right knee bent straight forward and squeezing to the pinky toe side of your foot. Right, and then come out of that back into a kneeling position. Wrist wrap your hands and come back into a tabletop setup. Bend your elbows. And again, cat-cow here. Inhale and exhale. Take that as many times as you need. If you need a little bit longer before moving on to the second side, pause the video and work through some stretches. And then when you're ready, come back to this chair position so that your hammock is behind your back and you're in an upper back harness and upward facing plank eventually. So straighten out your legs. Good, and then reach up with your hands. Pull your left knee up as you come to stand on your right foot and then glide forward with your left leg. high lunge, Ashtha Chandrasana. You can reach your hands up, you can wrap your arms here, but bend that left knee, fire up your right leg. And just find your balance here. You may have to move your feet around. Again, we're going to come into this humble variation. So I'm going to situate the fabric so I've got a shoulder wrap, so it's like a backpack, and then maybe even an elbow wrap instead. So it's a humble high lunge, a bowing high lunge, which we're going to turn this into a humble warrior. So you can turn your right heel down, or you can keep your right heel up. That's a really great modification. I'm going to reach up with my hands to grab the fabric for my humble warrior, and my right heel has turned down. Bend your left knee forward and let your upper back soften a little bit. Use your hands to hold here, not your shoulders. All right, and then inhale, come back up. Grab up to that fabric nice and high, and then you're going to step back or float back into the right knee bend so you can cross your left ankle over your right thigh again for that number 4 shape. Take just a few moments here. You can open your heart, especially if that fabric is digging into your armpits. Get out of it. And just let the right leg support this left hip opening here. The fabric is supporting your upper back. All right, and then after a few moments here, we're going to reach back up for the hammock and pull yourself back up to stand. Left leg's going to shoot forward again. This time, warrior 2. Left knee bends deep, open that right leg out, and so the right toes point in a little. So again, play with your hand variations. You could keep your arms just open or wrap your wrists up a second time, and then take the goalpost arms, letting that fabric shine your chest through. It just kind of gently nudges your chest through your shoulders. Left knee is bent over your ankle. Right leg is very strong, again, with those right toes angling in. All right, and then we're going to take this down to the right knee. So float down gently so you don't land hard on the knee. It's gentle. Take the fabric out in front of you. So now your left hand's going to come in the fabric. Just push down with your palm. Again, your right toes are turning back, and let them turn to any degree. Right hand reaches up, left hand in the fabric. Again, you're going to stir your left arm forward. So you can wrap around the fabric with your right arm, or you can simply just grab it, whichever one feels more natural for you. But I'm pushing that left knee forward and squeezing the left knee over towards the left pinky toe side of my mat. Push out with your left hand and pull down with your right hand. So you're pulling from your upper shoulder blade, not your biceps. Roll the ribs open, and then inhale, come out of that. All right, step back into a kneeling position. Again, wrap up your wrists. Tabletop pose if you want a few more moments here in cat-cow, or if you want to revisit anything that we've done up to this point in this practice, please pause the video and go back and play with any of those stretches. I'm going to sit back into hero pose, so my heels have separated, knees together. And then I'm using the fabric to pull down. So just a reclining hero, very modified here. It's super helpful to use the hammock in this posture. Try not to push your hips up too high. There's just a slight energetic press up of the hips and a pull in of your ribs. Let your head drop back if it's comfortable. Maybe you have a block you could put under your head. And then bend your elbows to pull yourself up here. And then take a moment just to get your balance if you get a little lightheaded coming up from that. All right, so we're going to come up to stand and set up for downward facing dog. So I'm going to take the fabric right in front of my hip creases. I have to walk forward of the plumb line and then catch the fabric in my hip creases and then start to walk back. So your mat might have to move, and you also might have to move a little bit more forward or back of your plumb line. It depends on how high your hammock is. Mine are lower. And then in downward facing dog, bend your knees, stretch your arms forward, let your chest open up here. I'm going to take my feet a little wider off to the edges of my mat and go to the left, push to the left. My hips are going to the left, and then back to center, and then push to the right. So you can feel the left arm kind of loses a little bit of weight here. And there's a big stretch over to the right with your hips. All right, and then back to center, downward facing dog. All right, so I'm going to set up for headstand, Shirshasana. I'm going to take my elbows to the floor. Your head does not need to be on the floor at this point. It can be. And I'm going to go ahead and situate mine. I have to walk back so I can feel where the hammock is helping me. So take your time and set this up. Please pause the video if you need more time to find that sweet spot where your very top of your head is on the floor. Okay, you could have your feet on the floor in down dog, or you could start to wrap the right leg out around the hammock and then start to pull your left foot up off the floor. You're using your right foot on the fabric to push. So your right knee stays bent. You're not straightening your right leg up to the ceiling. Your right knee is squeezing into your chest and your right foot is pushing that fabric away. And you're thinking about getting your left foot up off the floor. Maybe not very much, maybe just a little. You can feel that weight when you do this. You can feel the weight shift into the top of your head. So this is why you need to have the flat part of the top of your head on the floor, not your forehead, not the back of your head. And then switching sides, left foot wraps. Again, the left knee is bent, squeezing the fabric in your hip crease, in that left hip crease. Your left foot is pushing into the hammock, acting as a lever to start to take your hips over your head, and then gently lift that right foot off the floor. Maybe floats just an inch or two. And then I'm gonna give you a couple more modifications and options to work into downward facing dog in between sides though, or in between sessions or attempts. Take a big stretch here, Anahatasana. I'm gonna wrap both feet now and then come up to my head again after that brief stretch in Anahatasana. Now both feet are hooked. Now, with both feet hooked here, knees should be squeezed so that the fabric can still stay on the front of your thighs. If you start to straighten one leg up, you're going to see that fabric's going to slide up your leg and you're going to lose that side support. So keep the other knee bent and squeezing that knee and pushing that foot into the fabric. If you're straightening one side, squeeze the other side. This is just for you to feel that weight move up over your head and get comfortable with that. Maybe you just stay with the knees bent. But notice if you wobble, that fabric's going to catch you. So I'm kind of demonstrating here a little wobble. Oh, okay, you're like, oh, I'm losing it. But there, that fabric's going to catch you. That's why you need the knees bent and the feet hooked in order to have the fabric handy to catch you. All right, again, stretch back into the Anahatasana, arms forward. Keep your knees down here. If you lift your knees, you're going to slide right down and belly flop. It's no bueno. And then I like to go side to side, this little wiggle waggle side to side. Again, take your time, pause the video, go back and work those transitions before moving on to the next, or go back and revisit any of the stretches that we've done to this point. All right, I'm going to move into forearm plank here. So I'm using my feet like hands just to kind of push the fabric down to my ankles. I'm on my forearms, and then I set my head on the floor and down in the headstand setup, Salam Shirshasana. One foot's in the fabric, one foot's coming up out of the fabric. If your fabric is on a single point rig like mine is, it might be tough to get the foot back in the fabric. If it's a double point, it will probably be easier. So you can play with lifting one foot and then the other. Or maybe just holding one foot up. And maybe it's just a pike here. So maybe you're just working on those hips moving over the back of your head. So play with it. Maybe you want to get a little braver and take the feet up to the ceiling. You can use the fabric here. It's kind of hard because you can't see, but use your feet like hands. Maybe you can wrap your feet up a couple times in that hammock. And it's easier if you take your legs out wide. And then right here, bend your knees, wrap one foot and then wrap the other. And then you can stretch your feet up. So all of these progressions move at your own pace, of course. Don't ever go beyond what you're ready to do, but let the fabric help you. Let it be there as a prop. All right, enough of that. When you're done, just hang here. I'm going to move into like a bit of a rabbit's pose. So I'm going to like roll over to the top of my head. Just be careful with this that you're not crunching into your neck. It's a modified plow pose too. All right, so I'm going to do a somersault into reclining position. You can get there however you want. Sometimes it's like, oh, where am I going to land? There you go. It's fun. And then take your feet into the fabric, backs of your ankles in the fabric, hook your toes, and lie on your back with your legs out at about a 30-degree, 45-degree-ish angle, and then sway your legs side to side. So you can move down or up the length of your mat to adjust the angle of your legs or to adjust the grip of the fabric. Keep that in mind. All right, and then after a few little sways side to side, keep the left leg in and hug your right knee into your chest. Give it a little squeeze. And then you can sway your left leg. Just massage the hip joint. And turn it side to side. And then release your right leg out to the floor and take your left leg over into a gentle little twist and then roll it around to an opening. And if you want to stay in one of these positions in the twist, stay. or in the open version. So it's a little bit like Supta Padangusthasana. There's even the option here for a half happy baby. So play with these different movements in your hips and please take your time. There's absolutely no rush. Do the things that feel good to you and feel free to pause the video and go at your own pace. These are just for ideas for you to practice your at-home aerial flow. Switch on to the next side. Left knee squeezes in. Roll your right leg around to massage that hip joint. You might even straighten out your left leg and take the Supta Padangusthasana supported version with the hammock. Again, find the sweet spot and maybe stay for a few breaths. For me, the dynamic movement just always feels so good. So feel free to stay or move, finding the things that feel good to your body. Half happy baby. And then you can take both feet back in the hammock. I like to come into a knee hang. This feels really good to my low back, especially since I have a natural hyperextension in my low back. So I like to take a knee hang here and just let that back relax. It's like a tractioning, and then sway side to side. That feels super good. You can land here for your Shavasana as well. Sometimes it takes a little extra energy to keep your knees from sliding out. So it depends on, again, the height of your hammock. Maybe you've got something you could put up under your back like a bolster so you don't slide so much. Or you can end this in a supported leg relaxation. It's like legs up the wall, but legs in the hammock. And then your fabric, if it opens up to support your whole body, you could open your hammock and lie in the fabric for Shavasana in the fabric. I prefer to have a grounded Shavasana. The movement will make me a little motion sickness, give me motion sickness if I'm in the hammock. So, do what feels good to you and end your practice just as you need. And take your time, there's no rush. So as long as you've got here, rest. And then when you do finish your practice, bow to you. Tell yourself thank you. When you're ready, you can come up to seated. Take a bit of a forward fold with the hammock with your hands. And then maybe this is a good place to find an easy seated position just to ground and to not be moving and to be upright, to get your land legs back. All right, thanks, yogis.